Hello, it looks like you are using your Series Engine podcast feed to set up sermon series inside of your Tidely Church app. So this video is to walk you through it. Most likely you're on a window that looks just like this, and this is actually probably the video you're watching right now, which you found by choosing Series Engine as the way that you want to integrate your podcast feed. If you didn't happen to find the video this way, you can set up your podcast feed by going into, here's a WordPress dashboard, and you can see I have Series Engine selected in my WordPress dashboard, going down to Generate Podcast, and most likely you will find your podcast feed right here. So you'll just copy this, take it to the Church Apps dashboard, go to Audio, RSS feeds, add new, and then add that feed as the new podcast feed that you want to enter. But most likely you found this video by having already gone through those steps, so now we're just walking you through the process of actually setting things up correctly on the dashboard. Thankfully, Series Engine is already set up in a way where it's almost a one-click solution with the way that we've built the integration out for you here at Tidely. So going back into Series Engine, actually, first of all, let's go over here to the dashboard. On the dashboard here, you see the Tidely Church app dashboard in the audio section for Church of the West Side. Over here, you see Church of the West Side running in an app, and the far right tab at the bottom called Engine is actually this Series Engine feed. So when I go in here, you can see Checkmate is the newest sermon, Checkmate is the newest sermon, and you can see all of the sermons listed here, and you can see there are a lot of sermons listed here. So this is what you're used to seeing when you see a podcast feed, where I can choose any sermon, go in, see the details, there's a nice image there. But what we want to do is now convert this into a sermon series. So something to keep in mind is that because of how Series Engine handles the sermon series title within the podcast feed, you should not use a hyphen inside of the name of your sermons. Most likely there are going to be sermons here, especially if you have this many sermons where you have a hyphen, and you're going to see little problems coming through. And that's because, as you can see here, Series Engine adds a hyphen and then adds your sermon series name after that hyphen. So if you have two hyphens in there, it makes it really hard for us to determine where your sermon series name is. So as you do this and as you set this up, if you see some weird discrepancies, it's probably because of that. I'm guessing you're already familiar with this, but just in case you're not, you go into Edit Series, and this is where you actually set up the sermon series themselves. So as I go into, say, the Life-Giving Spirit, I will come here, set up the Life-Giving Spirit. The important part here is that you set the sermon series name to be whatever you want it to be, and that you set these images. And the really important image is the one right here, which is the podcast graphic. And this is the graphic that's going to be passed through to the app. And our advice here is don't set like a 3,000 width image, because the problem is the app has to load that 3,000 width image. So you're going to want to keep this image. Usually we'll advise to have 1,000 pixel width or smaller, but it can be a square, a 4:3, or a 16:9 image. What you see here is 16:9, but you're not stuck with a 16:9, especially if you use a grid as the layout style once you set up as a sermon series. And I'll walk through more of that here in a second. But at this point, as long as you're posting using Series Engine, setting up your edit series with the name and not using hyphens everywhere or removing those hyphens, you're actually in pretty good shape. And like I said, it's really a one-click solution where all you have to do is say make series and you're going to be good to go, which is fantastic. Sorry, Siri heard me talking there. But now that I've done that, I can go in ahead and reload the Church app, and I'm going to go ahead and dive into Engine, and there you go. There are your sermon series set up and ready to go. It's that easy to do. So as I go into something like Checkmate, you can see there's one sermon in Checkmate, but as I scroll here to the Life-Giving Spirit, there are all of the sermons from Life-Giving Spirit, and I have the ability at the top to now download all of the sermons from the Life-Giving Spirit. So now, using Series Engine and posting to Series Engine and just continuing to use your WordPress dashboard, you can now pull all of your content in and have the very best way possible for people to be able to access that content. Also, as you can with other areas, you can go ahead and press tabs and go down to the area, or the tab, which as we said was called Engine in this case, is how we set it up. And you can say, hey, I want this to display as a grid. In our case, we want that grid to be 16:9. But if you set up square images on Series Engine, 4:3 images on Series Engine, whatever you do, you can choose whichever aspect ratio you use. In our case, it's 16:9, and I'm also going to just go ahead and set a banner, which I conveniently had sitting here waiting for me. And I have banner image link. I'm going to go ahead and add that. So I have my set it up as grid, set it up as 16:9, and I added a banner image, which none of that's required, but if you want it to be set that way, you have the ability to do that without even needing to contact us. I'm going to select save, and now I can go ahead and reload the app. And once it reloads, you're going to see that when I go into Engine, now I have my content loading in a beautiful grid and set up so that as I post content to Series Engine to my WordPress dashboard, it will always look this great and load into the sermon series. So this gives you the ability to have a beautiful look, which you'd expect to have to custom post to a given church app dashboard, but we've made it so now you can pull that content in however you're posting it. And like I said, it's almost a one-click solution as long as you don't have hyphens within your titles already. And if you do, you can just change the process of how you're posting sermons. You just be careful adding a hyphen. So if you have any questions, go ahead and contact us at Tidely, and have a great day.